Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addicts, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And yes, it has been a good, and I do mean a good, minute since I've done any kind of trailer reaction, trailer commentary, trailer review, anything. So I figured it was high time I did that. So today I'll be reacting to the teaser for The Gilded Age, an upcoming HBO series created by Julian Fellowes, directed by Michael Engler and Salli Richardson, and starring Christine Baranski, Cynthia Nixon, and Carrie Coon. Let's get into it. Here for it already.
I need to make one thing clear. Power belongs to old New York, my dear. Not the new. Never the new. The old have been in charge since before the revolution. Until the new people invaded.
It's not quite as simple as that.
Yes, it is.
Ooh.
Let the tournament begin.
Listen. If you know me, then you know why I am totally and completely hyped for this. So if it wasn't obvious enough, this series is set in the Gilded Age, which are the boom years of New York City in the 1880s. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Gilded Age as far as history, well, it's an era that occurred during the late 19th century, from the 1870s to about 1900. And it was this era of rapid economic growth, especially in the northern and western United States, primarily because of the expansion of industrialization. So this was originally announced in 2018 for NBC, but around May 2019, it was announced that it would be moving to HBO, which I think is an excellent choice. Not to knock NBC, but I have said a couple of times before that NBC stands for nothing but cancellations. And even outside of that, I think the ratings pressure as far as shows succeeding on cable and not being canceled is a little bit different as opposed to premium networks like HBO. Shows do get canceled, but I just think a lot of times you have a greater longevity than you would on cable. And then on top of that, of course, I also think that HBO is just an unparalleled network, and the amount of quality series they have put out for, I don't know, like a couple of decades now, I think it is second to none. So yeah, the relocation, totally fine with me. And I'll be honest, as soon as I realized that this was set in the Gilded Age and was centered around that time in history, I immediately thought of The Age of Innocence. It is a historical drama romance film directed by Martin Scorsese in 1993 and starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Winona Ryder, and Michelle Pfeiffer. It is an excellent film. It is firmly planted in the Gilded Age in New York's high society, and the dynamics of the culture and the rules and just everything as far as the people and the culture and society and all that mixes together and how the story plays out. It's so well done. It's definitely up there as far as excellent and well-crafted period piece films, which you know I love. So the creator of the series is Julian Fellowes, who was an English actor, novelist, film director, screenwriter, you name it. He won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay in 2002 for Gosford Park, and he is the creator, writer, and executive producer of the multiple award-winning and massively popular series Downton Abbey. Let me just go ahead and say that I was late to the Downton Abbey train, but even when it was at the height of its popularity, I already knew it was a show that I was going to enjoy. Once again, the period pieces, the costume dramas, so it was game over. But at the time, I just didn't have the opportunity to watch it. But I knew as soon as I did, I would be totally into it. And I was not wrong. I loved it. Until that season 3 finale.
Oh God, I want to know why? Why? Lord, I wish I could understand.
Listen, I'm sorry. I could not go on from there. I couldn't do it. Like, my heart wanted to go on, but I was too traumatized. I was just too devastated. I was just like, I can't take anymore. And that is when I realized that Downton Abbey is just Game of Thrones dressed up as a very simplistic, heartwarming, charming costume drama. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. You think you're watching one thing, then all of a sudden it's like bam, bam, bam. So viewers beware. If you have not seen Downton Abbey, prepare yourself. Now, from what I read, initially this started off as a prequel spinoff to Downton Abbey, but I'm not certain that's still the case. If that does happen, I'm totally here for it. But I am also fine with this being its own thing. I mean, if we do see some connections, that'll absolutely be fun. But I think it being its own kind of separate universe, which it already is, I would totally be fine with that as well. So the first of our 2 directors here is Michael Engler. He is an American theater director and a Directors Guild of America and Emmy-nominated television director and producer. He has an extensive filmography with directing, which includes shows like 6 Feet Under, Sex and the City, and 30 Rock. He's also directed a few episodes of the original Downton Abbey series, as well as the most recent Downton Abbey film that came out in 2019. I am also so excited and so proud to announce that our second director is the multi-talented Salli Richardson, who will also be serving as executive producer. I say it all the time. I talk about my appreciation for certain actors and actresses and how their roles in certain films helped me appreciate the medium of film and just the experience of them growing up as a child in the 90s. My initial introduction to her was the voice actress for Elisa Maza on the Disney animated series Gargoyles. You talk about somebody who loved them some gargoyles. That was my show. That is probably one of my favorite animated series next to X-Men and Batman. All 3 of those, perfection. And I knew that she was the voice actress specifically even back then because on my VHS, I remember the early promo for Gargoyles and them showing all of the voice actors and the talent that were voicing these characters behind the scenes, which also included another underrated actor who I was introduced very early on.
My name is Keith David and I play Goliath. You're awake. You're alive. We're together again.
So yes, another memorable project with some very talented actors involved. And additionally, I was also familiar with Salli Richardson as Angela in A Low Down Dirty Shame, from Posse, Antoine Fisher, and much more. I haven't watched the series Eureka, but many of you may know her for her role as Dr. Allison Blake. So it's safe to say, very solid actress. But can we talk about this directing filmography though? I mean, Eureka, Queen Sugar, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Luke Cage, The Magicians, Shadowhunters, and an upcoming episode of The Wheel of Time, which I am enjoying so much. I mean, she is playing no games as far as the directing field, and I am just beyond happy and beyond proud of her. I've said it many times that I am always here for my Black female directors, and for her to be at the forefront of a massively huge series like this, I love it. I really do. So jumping over to the casting, first up we have Christine Baranski as Agnes van Rijn. And as you can see from the teaser, she is a very proud and stubborn old money Dutch-American socialite who is really clinging tightly to the old values of New York City's elite, which is not going to pan out too well considering what the Gilded Age represents and all these new money folks rolling in. So that's going to be interesting to see. Christine Baranski is another one, multi-talented. She is a 15-time Emmy nominee, which I have a problem with, but I digress. She's only won one Emmy Award in 1995 for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series for her role as Marianne Thorpe in the sitcom Sybil. She's also won a couple of Tony Awards as well. So I initially thought that my introduction to Christine Baranski was as Mary Sunshine in Chicago, another film that I love and enjoy immensely. But no, 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 no. My actual introduction was in Addams Family Values as Becky Martin Granger, one of the co-managers of Camp Chippewa, which we know is the same camp that Pugsley and Wednesday get sent to, and a whole bunch of hijinks and mayhem go down. Both of the Addams Family films are two of my favorite films ever, and they also were integral, again, as early childhood 90s films. Love both of them. And the fact that she had a hand in that, and I didn't realize that until later, it was pretty crazy. Also, I cannot forget her role as Martha May Whovier in 2000's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, starring Jim Carrey, which is yet another childhood classic. So if ever someone had to be selected to be the female lead at the forefront of a huge series like this, it's a no-brainer. We also have Cynthia Nixon as Ada Brooke, who is the sister of Agnes and is also reliant upon her sister's charity. So Cynthia Nixon not only has a major role in this series, but also in the upcoming series And Just Like That, which is the Sex and the City reboot / continuation series, where she will be reprising her role as Miranda Hobbs. So not one, but two major HBO series. Not mad at all. We also have Carrie Coon as Bertha Russell, who is determined to use her money and her position to break into a polite society that is resisting change at every turn. In other words, the new money. I was so excited to see that Carrie Coon would be a part of this series because I had the chance to reread and revisit the novel Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, and afterwards I also rewatched the film. And of course, Carrie Coon has a major role in that film as Margot. And I initially saw Gone Girl when it first came out. And I remember her role as Margot, and I thought, it was an excellent performance. But as far as I knew, I hadn't seen her in anything else after that. But once again, I was wrong. She was Proxima Midnight in Infinity War, and she also was Amanda Nunn in Widows. And on top of that, I just saw her in Ghostbusters Afterlife, which not only was a solidly entertaining film, but her performance in that was excellent as well. Like, I loved her character. And it would have been really easy to make that character just kind of the overprotective mom or just kind of make it very tropey, but she was so refreshing. I thought she was hilarious. And she did a great job, balancing the comedic elements with the emotional beats as well. So yes, Carrie Coon, I'm so here for it. And I love that once again, from Gone Girl to Infinity War, to Widows, to Ghostbusters Afterlife, and now the Gilded Age. It's like all of those are so different as far as the characters and the projects, but I'm so excited and I cannot wait to see what she brings to this series. And if you hadn't noticed, we also have a role with Audra McDonald, the multi-talented, legendary, iconic Audra McDonald. Yes, she will be starring in this series as well, which means that we are technically getting a mini reunion of The Good Fight with her character and Christine Baranski's, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, story-wise, there's still a lot left for us to discover and find out once the series premieres. But I find this whole class conflict of old money versus new money and the changing of society and the changing of culture in general, like as far as history, I always find that those eras are so compelling and so interesting and so layered because, I don't know, just dealing with the changing of society and the progression of time and just all the things that change and how society just moves forward as time changes. So I always find that to be something very compelling to watch and to read about. And even that little piece of the story took me all the way back to Titanic. And a significant piece of that film that I'm being reminded of in this series are the obvious class conflicts that we saw with Molly Brown and the other women. I didn't fully understand it, but as I got older, it was like, oh, yes. New money, she struck gold, and all of a sudden she was this woman with all these riches and all this wealth, but she did not represent what polite society, wanted out of a woman with money like that. And so it makes a lot more sense now, especially. But seeing a whole series kind of center around that, I think that that is going to be like, that is really going to be something to see. And there's so much that you can explore psychologically, you know, financially, from a cultural perspective, you know, in history. I'm so here for it. So it is safe to say that January cannot come soon enough. The Gilded Age is set to premiere on HBO January 24th, 2022. I will definitely be there watching, might even consider doing some recaps. And as always, I will definitely be here to give you guys my thoughts. So, once again, this is D Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.